Welcome to the Shadow Things Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Shadow Things Podcast. I'm joined today by my co-host,
Vanessa. What's up?
So I'm Brent Fair, and this is our first pilot episode. Not even episode number 1, but episode 0 of the Shadow Things Podcast. And it's really just a chance for us to kind of explain what this podcast is all about, what we're trying to do with it, what we're not trying to do with it, and just introduce ourselves on this episode. Tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're doing this, and explain the show. What are we going to talk about on this show? How do we hope to gain your interest? Stuff like that. So I'm going to lead off by trying to explain what Shadow Things Podcast is. So basically, what's in the name? So shadow things. Some people might think about, shadow people or maybe even a shadowy government. Well, if you're one of those types that think about those two topics, and associate the name, you're right. So it's anything shadowy or mysterious that doesn't fit into the typical norm of everyday news and pop culture conversation. So we're talking about UFOs. We're talking about ghosts, hauntings, psychic abilities, psychic phenomenon, you name it, even paranormal pop culture.
Cryptids,
cryptozoology, all the good stuff that makes people, scratch their heads and gather around a campfire at night. So all that good stuff, that's kind of why we're doing Shadow Things. That's what the show is really about. So I would like to say that we differ from other paranormal podcasts because we're kind of trying to give that Joe Rogan Experience type of paranormal podcast. Mm-hmm. So this is not about somebody trying to launch a podcast and get super famous or get a television show. We're going to cuss on this show. We're going to speak our minds. We try to keep it down a little bit. But this is a show where we're going to share opinions and really let you have it with the opinion piece of our thoughts about the state of paranormal topics, ufology, everything that the name Shadow Things encompasses. So, So we're not going to hold back. This is an uncensored program where every time you tune into one of our episodes in the future, you can expect us to keep it real. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're just going to try to be as real and genuine about these topics as possible. And sure. We actually live in a time now where everybody's trying to tread lightly and be PC, even people in this paranormal field, whether it be ufology or ghost hunting, people tend to want to ride the thin line. Well, guess what? We're not. So we're going to say what we want to say and share facts. We're not here to bullshit anybody. It is what it is. So that's what the show is about. What it's not about, I kind of covered as well. So we're not here to gain anything, really. We appreciate the viewership, the listenership. However you're getting this distribution of our podcast, we appreciate you. But it's really all about having fun, having a good time doing that, because Vanessa and I, we share, a common bond when it comes to these topics. So, it's of high interest of us, and we want to share that with you and keep it real and give you that kind of Joe Rogan type experience. So
Yeah. I guess if you have ever been with one person and you get on the subject of all these crazy things and you're like, you share your opinions and you're like, damn, I wish that we could throw this on a podcast, because the conversation just goes like every which way, and that you learn so many interesting things from one another, and I guess that's the whole point. You get to shooting the shit with that one other person that you share this common bond with, and you're like, oh wow, man, I kind of want to share this with the rest of the world. You know what I mean?
It's cool too, because you and I share this interest, but every guest that comes on to the Shadow Things podcast is in the same boat. We're all people gathered around the campfire for the night,
for sure,
roasting marshmallows, looking up at the sky, and talking about things that really keep us up at night. We even have a third co-host, Mandy. She's my wife, and she's not here with us today for technical reasons. However, she will join us for some future shows, and like I said, we're going to take on an array of guests, depending on what topic we're doing for the evening. But so that's kind of the gist of the show. And our topics are our topics, but we're going to structure the show a certain way to where we are going to, and I'll just keep it real, we're going to pick apart, we're going to have a portion of the show where we're going to take 20 to 30 minutes and we're going to absolutely try to obliterate some of these hokey pokey YouTube videos that we find, where the cabinet drawers are flying open, and you can all but see the string attached to plates and shit. It's like, come on. So we're gonna really dig into the quackery on YouTube, with all these paranormal caught on video type things that you see there. And there's going to be other segments that we structure along the way, but for today's podcast, we're just keeping it about us and the show, so you can get to know what you're getting from us. So one thing that I want to do is start talking about who we are and what brought us into this. And Vanessa, we'll have you kind of lead it off, so tell everybody why you got into the paranormal.
Well, it was a big part of my childhood. You did it for many years, and I watched as a child. Now, listen, I didn't know shit about F. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that it was super cool and intriguing. And then, it kind of coincided with my beliefs, and, the older I got. And this is shit you're not supposed to think about when you're, 6 or 7 years old. But when I was 6 or 7, I was watching you do this. This was your life, and this was your passion, and I watched, and, I developed my own anxieties about the world, but this kind of has always it was always like a coping thing for me. This is why I became passionate about it, is because it's the things that people fear, the unknown, the anxieties about the unknown. When you dig into it, it's almost comforting to me. To me, it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I'm here. It's kind of why I do it. It's never left me, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
I guess if you spend some time in your childhood sleeping with the lights on and your head under the cover, not letting your feet hang out of the blanket or going under your bed, it's kind of worthwhile knowing why you do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's a motivator. And I was one of those kids too, where I was scared of everything.
Quite literally sleep with the comforter up to your ear, so some entity didn't walk up and whisper in your ear.
For sure. I don't want shit whispering into my ear in the middle of the night. So, yeah, for sure. So about what age you say?
Oh, I would say 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it kind of that area for me too is when I first started thinking about this stuff.
And it's weird.
We'll certainly get into that more about me here in a minute. But what are some of your key interests in all things shadowy?
Life after death, of course.
That's a good one. I stay up all night thinking about that.
And I hate it. Like, I hate, the mind can just, it's like a black hole sometimes, but this is real stuff, and we're not the only ones that lie awake at night thinking about it. So life after death, realms beyond this one, I suppose, if there's any, which I like to think there are. Life outside this planet, this galaxy, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I hate to sound cliche, but life outside the planet. Like,
that's what it is, man. Is E.T. out there or what?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I could go on and on about that, extraterrestrials, cryptids, what kind of creatures are walking around and we don't even know. Like, we don't even know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Right.
Yeah, I could go on and on.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. So I guess a little bit about me. Why did I get into the paranormal? Like Vanessa, I started because... So I didn't get into the paranormal right off the bat. So around 8 or 9 or so, just like everybody else, I was scared shitless of the dark and, thinking about what's in the closet and, just the typical things that kids who are scared of stuff like that think about. I think that what really tipped it off for me is I had my own personal experience when I was... I think I was 9 or 10, where I developed a fever. I'm going to keep this short, and I don't mind sharing it. Maybe it comes out more in a later episode, and you know this story.
I do.
I developed a fever. I was a sick fucking kid. I had a fever all the time, and I don't know why. Maybe mom dropped me on my head a couple times, but I always had this sickness, but particularly around when I was 9, 10 years old. But I had a fever one time. It was like 104.5, something like that, before the COVID-y days. But, I started hallucinating, and I see this figure standing in, my proximity in, the house there. And, it was as real as it got for me. And basically, I told it to go away. It went away. Well, long story short, talked to my dad the next morning about the sickness. I was feeling better, and he was like, well, who were you talking to in the kitchen? And I said, well, it was this guy. And he was like, well, what did he look like? So I don't know if he believed in it or anything like that, but I described him to his clothes and what he actually looked like in the face and everything. And turns out that I described his father to a T. So he showed me a picture of his dad, which would be my grandfather, of course, and it was the same guy. And he died in 1972. I was born in 1975, so at that point, of course, I'd never met the man because he passed before I was born. However, I'd also never seen any photographs of him in the photo albums that my dad kept tucked away. So I had no way of knowing that was... There's no way that was subliminally put into my consciousness for me to hallucinate at that point. So in my mind, that was as real as a ghost gets.
Bizarre.
It appeared at a time of crisis. It went away upon my request, and I never saw him again until later on in life. And we'll get into that when we get into our experiences. But that's really what started making me want to read books, even at an early age. I remember in elementary school, I would go into the school library, and other kids were looking at, race car books, or Star Wars and G.I. Joe was huge when I was a kid. I would go straight for, like, the Hardy Boys. My first book that I ever read was Hardy Boys and the Mystery of the Green Ghosts. It was the scariest thing I ever read, and it was so stupid. But that was my first ghost book. And, of course, my mom was super into the paranormal, and I never paid attention until I got a few years down the road from there. But I would find she had these supernatural cult books and stuff like that laying around, and I started looking at them like, this is some weird shit. Like, some of the covers had symbolism on it, and like dudes doing yoga with bones in their ears and shit. And I'm like,
What?
I didn't know what it was about until I really started digging in. And it showed pictures of these guys levitating, and so I started reading Mom's books. I'm like, wow. I had to kind of cope with reality that this stuff actually might be real, because I've had this experience and they're talking about this stuff in these books. So I dug into that, and then for whatever reason, while looking through the school libraries, I remember I was in middle school. I was in the 6th grade, and I came across a book about Project Blue Book. And I picked it up and read it, and I remember the first case I read in that book, and it was about the incident at Exeter, Rhode Island. So it was a UFO case, and I was absolutely hooked from there. So that started kind of my ufology journey, why I was interested in that. And then, of course, when you're into ghosts and you're into UFOs, you start looking into weirder shit like Nessie, so the Loch Ness Monster. You're looking at Bigfoot, stuff like that. So that's kind of my youth experience and why I've developed into, my interest today. And then there's a lot more things that's happened since I've been an adult, and a lot of them.
Of course,
and so that's kind of where I came into, this field. So it's, I certainly believe in a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about on the Shadow Things, but my experience over the years, I investigated the paranormal as an adult for about 14 years until I got out of it. And, I've learned to accept that not everything is real, even if I want it to be real.
Of course.
So, my key interest is all of those things as well. Ghosts, UFOs, psychic phenomenon, even demonology, that I don't, and this is another topic for another show, but I'm not 100% sold on that shit. Everything that you see on TV now is a ghost or, a demon. They always resort to the demon in the corner of the basement. It's like, I'm sorry, but Lucifer is not hanging out in Boca Raton, Wisconsin in some basement.
No.
He is fucking not there.
I can imagine not, no.
No, he's not. If there's an entity, a non-pleasant one, maybe it's like that, but it's not him. Lucifer's on Netflix. That's a pretty funny show, but he's not hanging out in Grandma Cosro's basement. He's just not.
I'd like to believe that Lucifer looks a lot like Tom Ellis, but
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of ladies do, but yeah. So,
it goes the same way for me. I just can't. I'm looking forward to being able to express my feelings about all of these things, and like, there's creatures like Bigfoot, and there's creatures like Chupacabra. Is that what that's called?
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra.
Gotta have that Spanish.
Hey, I can't pull it off, but just creatures like that, and then there's spiritual creatures like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess skinwalkers?
Yeah, for sure.
Skinwalkers. I just, in recent years, learned that was a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Huge.
Man, I don't know. I've seen a lot of things the older I get. Not, like, personally, but, like, you got TV, you've got the internet, you've got YouTube, and you're like, some things you just can't explain. Like, I don't have an explanation for.
Right.
And then there are some things that really just kind of make me giggle, so.
Right. There's a lot that makes me giggle, and some that makes me want to throw shit at the TV. But some of the stuff, and you can ask Mandy, I'll tell her we'll be sitting down watching, some paranormal show where they have a panel of goofballs on there. And they're like, not mentioning any shows in particular. I will not do that, bash shows on this show. But I'll keep it real and just kind of keep it general. There are some shows out there with panels of experts, and watch this, experts, that, no one on those shows, they try to bolster the evidence, If there's nothing exciting going on these shows and they're trying to shoot it down or be skeptical or critical of what they're seeing, the show's going to not get views after that. So they're trying to bolster it. Yeah, the aliens seem very interested in this guy's basement. It's like, oh, did it? To me, I just seen a dust ball in front of the IR portion of the camera that's a little out of focus. Not a demon. So, but when I see something interesting on those shows, I am the first one to kind of raise my hand and say, holy shit, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have an explanation for that, and I am the most skeptical person you're going to come across.
It is so incredibly exciting when you don't have an explanation for something.
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen videos about things like fairies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People seeing creatures the size of, I don't know, dragonflies in their trees that are like humanoids, and
right.
like you hear about all this stuff, and like I've seen actual videos of things that I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
I don't have an explanation for that, and that is just so exciting to me.
Right.
And then there are times where it's like, okay, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll never dog out someone's experience, because some of the things that I've seen, and not a whole lot, I'm not like a paranormal expert here, but I've had my own experiences, and who am I to take someone else's experiences away by trashing what they've experienced? So like, I'm not going to ever tell anybody, no, you didn't see a fairy. Maybe they did. I seen my grandfather, who had passed away 3 years prior to my birth. I mean, people would laugh at that, but I'm telling you that happened, and there's really no taking that from me. So I'm not going to say, well, you didn't see a fairy, because that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Maybe it sounds ridiculous, but maybe there are fairies. I don't know. I've never seen one, but that's the reality we live in.
I could imagine that when you have an experience like seeing your grandfather in a kitchen, who's passed on, that's going to open your mind to things like fairies. And as goofy as it sounds,
yeah,
a fairy could damn well be in that tree.
Yeah. Well, and just kind of a little backstory to fairies, now that you mentioned them. So my mom, who's now passed, she passed about 19 years ago, and that's actually episode number 10 about what we're going to discuss on a Shadow Things, her whole story. But my mom was heavily into this, and she was a master astrologer, into the supernatural and all that stuff. But in her childhood, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but
maybe
in her childhood, she swears up and down, when we talked about it, she swore up and down that she saw a fairy. Mm-hmm. And she didn't quite describe it as a fairy, but that's kind of the way I interpret it. Basically, there was a time where there was a neighborhood girl, and everybody was, playing outside and everything, and this girl always talked about her little imaginary friend, described her as being 1 foot tall and having wings, and it was a female. And it would just kind of follow her around the neighborhood and in her house and stuff like that. So all the kids, including my mom, just laughing like, psh,
right.
I think all kids have imaginary friends, but this one had an imaginary fairy. And everybody laughed until one day she was playing with all the kids and said, oh, look, there's my friend. I think she called her by name.
Yeah.
But she was like, oh, look, up there's Belinda or whatever the hell her name was. And my mom and everyone else turned around and looked up into this little attic window that had the little louvers. I can't remember what the hell you call those. And there was a 1 foot tall figure that appeared to have wings, and then it just vanished. Everybody saw it. My mom saw it. She described it. She said it looked like a stereotypical fairy.
Oh my goodness.
So you have a mass sighting by the neighborhood kids. They all didn't imagine it. I can't take that from any of them. So perhaps fairies do exist.
Something.
Yeah.
It's got to be something. I mean, you got that many people, that many kids walking down the damn sidewalk, and there's a thing, and everybody collectively sees it as a unit.
Yeah.
Like,
For
what
sure.
what denying is there to do?
Yeah, and that's what we're not here to do on this podcast. I think you agree. We're not here to take away from anyone.
No, not to discredit anybody's
No.
experiences at all.
But I am going to absolutely call out everybody that tries to pull a fast one for the sake of entertainment or ratings, especially, amateurs that put shit on YouTube and come on.
Goofy.
Get out of here with
I've
that.
seen some goofy
And
stuff.
it ruins people because, people take that to heart. There are people that's very passionate about maybe something that's going on in their home or their place of business, and they're looking for answers on the internet, and they come across these videos of like a shadow figure hanging upside down in the threshold of the door of a dark room that just happened to get caught on camera. But in reality, it's a costume and somebody just hanging upside down on some ladder or something. It's like,
That's so disappointing.
that's messing with people.
It is.
I'm going to call that kind of stuff out like all day, but I'm not here to take away from people's experiences.
Oh,
for
no.
sure. Because I'm a huge believer in ghosts. I've had my fair share over the years investigating the paranormal. I've been to a lot of places that are haunted. When I ran my own team in Columbus, we investigated lots of residences for families who were looking for answers, and that's another thing too. A lot of teams nowadays, and this is one of the things that bugs me about the paranormal, and particularly the ghost field, or the ghost hunting field, teams are forming left and right since the advent of paranormal television, starting with ghost hunters. They're forming their own teams left and right under the guise that they're helping families find answers. Well, here's the flat out reality. And I know this from experience, when you go into a person's home, number one, be real with the client. You're not going to give them any answers. Aside from debunking, why did the door fly open?
Right.
Why did you have that cold spot in the middle of the night? Why are you having bad dreams? Perhaps it's the alarm clock, super high EMFs going into your brain and giving you these bad dreams or whatever. If you're doing those type of things and being real with your residential clients, kudos. But man, they're forming these groups under the guise of let's help the client and get answers. But really what they're doing is they're going to Cedar Point and Kings Island and Six Flags. They're going into these people's homes to have a thrill time, to seek ghosts and get them on film, to be that person that gets them on film and go straight to YouTube and present their EVPs. Or
For sure.
to me, that's horseshit. Be real with the client. Say you're there to hunt ghosts, not help them. If you're not going to try your part at debunking, be real with the client. Say, I'm here to capture evidence and put it all over the fucking internet. Absolutely tell them that. So,
I guess my opinion, and I've always wondered the same thing. You see certain shows on television go in and say, I'm going to help this family. What are you going to help them do? You know what I mean? Well, what are you going to help them do?
Yeah.
You're going to obviously validate their experiences, which is great. I can imagine somebody who has experiences like the ones that are portrayed on television, these families saying, there's a demon in my home and it's running my entire life. My kids can't sleep, blah, blah, blah. I could imagine there's some sense of comfort to having somebody who knows what they're looking for, come into your home, validate your experiences, call the Catholic priest, whatever they need to do to attempt to... But listen, not a single one of these crews that go into these homes are there to pull ghosts or demons out of your residence.
Yeah. Well, some groups might proclaim that they have someone on their team that has, let's say, a sensitivity to the other side and has the ability to act as a medium and relay messages and send people to the light. I don't know where I subscribe to on the theory level there.
Yeah.
But you need to be real with your client if you're in a residential case and tell them that that's not your wheelhouse. You're there to get the evidence and validate, like you said, their experience and be done with it. More so, debunk, help them have a peace of mind. Explain to them why they had that cold chill in the middle of the night. Well, there's a vent right there. Maybe they overlooked it, something as mundane as that.
Yeah.
Some people overlook it and they automatically go to that demon explanation, which is sad. And that's where I think it's the responsibility of paranormal investigation teams to deliver to their client explanations first. Not, dude, did you hear that? It's a growl right behind me. It's an elemental.
Sure.
From Ireland. That's like, we're in Michigan, dude. It's like, don't fake your customers or your clients.
Yeah, no, sure. As exciting as that is, I can imagine as a client or customer, I would want you to come tell me that Skinwalker's not living in my closet, or, you know what I mean? Like, that makes no sense. But you get my point. Like, I would imagine as somebody who's having, like, I'm talking crazy experiences in the place where I lay my head at night, to have experts come into my home. I want every scientific explanation that you can possibly give me. The last thing I want it to be is a damn Zozo demon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
when people seek out answers, unfortunately, the go-to is the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know how else you would seek out some professional to tell you why your plates are moving at night. But you're going to go on the internet and you're going to find, groups like the TAPS family. You're going to find other organizations that have a host of networking of any state has a handful to dozens and dozens of paranormal teams that can come into your home and do an investigation for you and check out your claims. And I think it's great that they have an outlet to have people come to their homes. But, back in the day, like when my mom would tell stories about the haunted places we've lived in and stuff, she would tell us that she sought help at the local bookstore. Like, she would walk into the local crystal tarot card shop and ask the clerk, hey, what do I do about, and she would get her advice that way. There were no teams back in the 80s that really did this mainstream. You started getting teams, and you did have classic ghost hunters back in the 80s. I can remember in the early 90s, some teams out of Pennsylvania that were doing really great investigative work. But prior to that, you got Harry Price, one of the most famous ghost hunters. Hans Holzer, pioneer. I mean, people that really dug in and did some science. Did they author books and stuff like that? Of course. We'd never know about them. But the resource today is the internet, and you're going to come across these networks of people that simply want to really come into your home and capture cool shit on camera. And I think that's a shame. I think it's fine to an extent if that's what the client's looking for. Do they want validation? Because they'll swear up and down that they've seen the chandelier swinging and a ghost boy hanging off of it. Well, if a team can go in and capture that, more power to them.
Right.
But like you said, I don't think that a ghost hunting group or professional should mislead a client by saying, I'm going to send him into the light.
Yeah.
That's not a proven thing.
No.
And we've done this in the past. Call clergy. If they want the house blessed and you're a believer in faith and that makes you feel better as a process, whether or not it actually worked is not the point. If you feel better because Father Mohini come through and waved his holy water all over the place, fantastic. Even if it's a placebo effect, at least that homeowner, that business owner feels better about.
They feel like they got something out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, besides orb pictures.
Some kind of resolution, I guess.
So what really bugs me about the paranormal is really that people just, they go balls out, man, about like the most mundane stuff. Like here lately, I'm getting a lot of calls and messages about these Ring video door cameras, and these. I got cameras up in my house, and I look at them every now and again, and I see bugs and I see spider webs and stuff. The big thing now is that spider webs are illuminated by the IR light, infrared light on the camera. So at night, you're only going to see a portion of that little spider web, and it looks like a figure dancing in your lawn or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's cool looking, but use your head. Like people are so invested that is dead Uncle Charlie outside by the tree.
Just because it's exciting. I mean, you know,
it's exciting, but it's my job to bring him back down. Like, well,
listen,
don't be scared.
Listen, Linda, it's not dead Uncle Charlie in the yard.
Yeah. So, it bugs me that, back in the early 90s, people would be so invested into the orb.
Oh, yeah.
So on the advent of digital cameras, you started seeing all the orbs, and people would actually have membership sites where you had to pay to see pictures of orbs.
What?
And my good friend Kurt is going to be on some future episodes and a regular guest of the show, and we have fun kind of going back in history and talking about all the horse shit and paranormal. But yeah, like he will tell you too, there were membership sites where people would actually pay money to these charlatans that would put pictures of orbs up there and super get up close to the orb.
Shut up.
And here's an example on our video right here of what people would look at. And you could see smiley faces and different colors and different layers outside, like an aura. So automatically people are like, oh, it's a mad, angry orb.
Oh, stop.
It's bored. It needs attention. Or, it's a hungry orb. And then they went on to say, like, this one chart described an orb like a cell, a cellular structure. They said, this is the protoplasm of the orb. This is the nucleus. They had a whole fucking biology of an orb. And it's a piece of dust.
I just can't. I cannot even.
Yeah, it's...
What?
Well, here's the thing, like, even back in those days when I was really naive about things, it just didn't make sense to me.
No.
And I wanted to believe that stuff, but...
Same.
Yeah, well, video orbs are 99% dust.
Yeah.
I've seen some things that kind of interest me, but I was more happy to accept orbs on video more than I was orbs on, in a still image, just because they were in motion and stuff like that. But if you blow anything up, high resolution, and you start really zooming into things, it's going to look funky.
It's going to be, you're going to pull all kinds of shit out of there. Like, you're going to make all kinds of things appear.
Yeah. So it bugs me that I think it's sad that people get so invested into the science where there's no science.
Oh, for sure.
There's no biology to a piece of dust.
No.
I mean, maybe there's dust mites on it.
Yeah.
Right? And there are.
Right.
But it bugs me. Don't have a membership site up to look at the biology chart of an orb. I
don't even know why that was ever a thing. I didn't know that was a thing until 12 seconds ago.
Yeah, for sure. You're gonna learn a lot of hookery from me.
What in the hell?
Yeah. So that bugs me. But, there's some reality out there as well. In my times of investigating, and you've been into some haunted places too, I've seen some things that I just can't explain. I've been to some places that did give me the heebie-jeebies. My first place would be OSR, Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. It's kind of the cliche go-to spot where people go and do these public haunts. Well, not to make myself sound dated and old, I was the first person to conduct a paranormal investigation at OSR. I was way before these ghost hunts started.
Yeah.
I was back in the day, 6 directors ago of that place, and I had a private tour / set up your stuff and capture stuff evening there, and it was fantastic because we did get some very interesting things on audio. It was back in the day where we had analog. It wasn't a digital audio recorder, but had a tape in it spinning.
Yeah.
I'm that old.
Oh, stop.
So we had the tapes ready, and get me a new tape, and it's crazy, but we did capture a lot of fun stuff there, that we tried to pick apart. Some things on still camera that looked cool. It could have been haunted. I've since been back. I think we went one time for a non-related tour, but
Yeah.
me and Mandy, we've done overnight ghost hunts there publicly, and it's so big you can find your own little hole and
Not see anybody for 10 minutes.
except for Zach Bagans when he appeared.
Stop.
So it wasn't really Zach Bagans' people, but this guy looked just like him.
And you sent me a photo, and I was tripping.
Yeah, and the guy actually looked like him, and I was pulling Vanessa's leg, like, look who showed up. And
I was like, you better just shut the hell up right now.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
the guy was super nice, but he followed me and Mandy around in like the hole and the east shower room and stuff like that, and it kind of felt like he was the ghost for a while, but literally you can get away from everybody in that place and have a great experience. But going back to why I'm talking about OSRs, I've had my first kind of creepy feel out of a place. There's a section on top of the reformatory called the Catholic Chapel, and you got to ascend these creepy ass stairs. It's like a set of maybe 30 stairs.
Yeah.
That kind of goes up at a steep incline, but it's dark as hell. There's
Yeah.
not power in portions of the building. And I remember swinging open that door from the Brooks Hadlin room, kind of off to that room,
Yeah.
to that stairways. And I remember asking Ron, the director at the time, what's up there? He said, well, that's Catholic Chapel. He said, you can go on up. I looked at them stairs. I said, nope, I'm good. And I was scared of nothing back in those days.
Wow.
It was the first place that really set my bat alarm off. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going up there because I don't know why. And that's the weird part. I don't know why.
It's uncomfortable. Can I tell you my first?
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, I was probably 6 or 7, as I said. The first place I ever went was when we got the call. I can't remember. Somebody was working housekeeping at Fort Hayes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I don't remember who it was. They gave you a call and said, hey, I'm hearing weird shit.
Yeah.
Weird shit's happening. So we all collectively as a family, for whatever reason, went to this place. And that was the most unsettling experience. Just walking around there was uncomfortable to me. And I think that was the place where we caught the EVP in the locker room.
Yes.
And my God, do I wish we could find that.
I remember that.
And
You're talking about angels on the ground?
No, hey, let me out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, let me out. And then you heard the locker sound.
And you know what, and like every hair on my body standing up right now.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because when we were recording, I was second to last to walk out of that locker room.
That's always fun.
I know for a fact nobody else was in that locker room. Nobody was saying, hey, let me out before the door closed.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that really happened.
Yeah.
I don't have an explanation for it. That borderline, as dramatic as this is going to sound, changed my life.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable to anybody listening to that story.
Absolutely crazy.
Or anyone that's had that type of experience.
Yeah.
And talking about that, Fort Hayes is it's an old military barracks in downtown Columbus, Ohio. President Lincoln's funeral procession went in front of that right outside, and there's a whole gathering there back in the day. But now it's a school of arts, and I can't remember what else is going on there, but there are portions of buildings that are still on that ground, that campus, that belong to the U.S. military. I think it's an Army installation. The building that you're talking about that we did our time in was the recruiting center. So the United States Army recruiting building. It was huge for a recruiting building.
Giant.
But, so it was an Army recruiting facility. We actually gathered as a team. At the time, it was Columbus Paranormal Investigation Group, CPIG, which later transpired or transformed into ParaX Research Foundation, so PRF. To be honest, I can't remember what group we were at the time because that was really in our infancy. But we had some people there that had years of experience doing paranormal stuff, and some great-minded people, some smart people, and some family. And we went through that place with a fine-tooth comb, and there's some really great stuff happening in there.
That was a game changer for me.
That was the first time I just bashed the shit out of orbs. But in the locker room on the second floor of that place at Fort Hays, I experienced for the first time in my life a visual sighting of, I'm going to call it an orb. It was a round ball of light that came out from underneath the benches in front of the locker room and absolutely did go into a wall.
Wow.
I seen it, and a couple of other people seen it that was with me that night. And we weren't looking at it through an IR viewfinder or a night shot Sony camera back in the day.
Yeah.
We seen it with our own eyes. It did happen, and that was cool. That building was haunted.
There's something rolling around that place.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, and I remember that night we were standing in a warehousey part of the building.
Yeah, up front there's kind of a warehouse.
Yeah. And it was a big open area. And I remember myself listen, again, 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
When you're that age, it's a very delicate thing because I want to say kids will make shit up just for the excitement. But I really I heard what I heard on the recorder, and that was life-changing enough. But I definitely did see a shadow, race car fast across the wall.
Like a shadow thing.
Yeah, like a shadow thing. And
wow.
It shadowed its ass right across that wall so fast, and myself and one other person saw it, and I didn't say anything because, of course, I'm just a kid.
We had a psychic there that night. I don't know if you remember her.
I don't know.
We had a psychic there that night, and she actually said that little warehouse gathering area there, right kind of where you walk in, was the most active place in there. I disagree, but that's where you're saying you seen your little shadow thing.
It was just kind of like a...
Yeah, so we're broadcasting from Pluto, on the moon over there. No, we're actually in central Ohio. So we've obviously done, the normal cliche scary visits to, those type of places.
Yeah.
That was a case where we were called in to take a look at things. But we've done a lot of the buildings and haunt spots here in Ohio, of course. I've been all over the country, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But just kind of some of the things we've experienced here in the home state. Now, what bugs you about the technology that you see on these paranormal shows? What excites you?
So, let me just start off by saying the stuff that has me I guess I don't know how to explain that. Throwing my hands up.
Right.
Is the things I see a music box. Have you ever heard of a music box?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's essentially...
It looks like a music box.
It looks like a music box. I've seen some of them shaped like coffins.
Yeah, and jukebox, like a jukebox.
Literally. And it's essentially the same thing as... I guess. I'm no expert. It's essentially the same thing as a K2 or something like that. It's something that detects whatever comes near it.
Yeah.
And goes off or makes noise or beeps.
Right.
Well, this
like
thing,
a REM pod.
I just feel like that's so easy to... not manipulate. I don't want to sit here and say people manipulate. They might. But I guess my point is
it's subject to interference.
Yeah. How... It's just too easy for something else not
sure
paranormal to make the thing sound, play music, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I just see a lot of goofy shit, and I'm just like, come on.
Yeah.
And people really, will hype these up on YouTube, oh, man, you see that it's going off. And
that's that investment I'm talking about. That's the whole, the orb is angry, and here's the biochart of the orb. That's how invested people and passionate people get into wanting to see and experience ghost stuff. So, I mean, I could see where that... What do you like? What is a piece of equipment out there that you see in Main Street pop culture that really excites you, though?
Something that really excites me is a spirit box.
Like an SB7.
Like actual voices.
Yeah, Frank's box and...
coming over several different sweeps.
Right.
Sometimes I don't have an explanation for it. Like, certainly that also is subject to interference.
Sure.
Easily. And you'll get like a glimpse of a song on the radio or like a little hit of the song on a radio, and you'll hear it and you'll be like, oh, But when there is a full sentence over several different sweeps, I don't have an explanation for that, and I think that is so cool.
Is it a coincidence that all of those frequency sweeps put together a perfect sentence and a sometimes perfect response to a question?
An intelligent response.
Yeah, that does kind of get my goose a little bit. I think that's interesting, and I've had my own experiences with that. But I think the thing that really kind of keeps me a little skeptical of a radio frequency sweeping device like a Frank's box or an SB7 is the fact that, and you mentioned it, it is not only subject to interference, the premise works off of interference.
Yeah.
It is being interfered with by all the broadcasts that is harnessing to create that experience.
You're absolutely right.
But what interests me is the fact that it does put those sentences together. So it's like, holy shit, like, how does that even happen? And one of the big things for me in modern times is, the introduction and the use of kind of the same technology, but the Estes method of where you're, and it's popularized, out west and on the short television show Hellier, which is fantastic, and we'll go through that show in a later episode. But they use the Estes method on that show to receive messages, and some of the things that happen on that show through the Estes method, they're fantastic.
Blow me away.
Like it has its place in the paranormal. I'm not totally ready to discredit it, but I need to say that it works on the premise of interference. It's an FTC regulated device that says it has to accept interference, right? So, but that is a very interesting tool that they use. I think they use that more than just about anything that you see like on TV, and I think a lot of groups in reality are starting to use those things. But for me, I guess the one piece of equipment, I could really tear them all up, is just the general EMF meter. I mean, I kind of grew into this field using these rum-dum meters that detect God knows what in midair. I'll call a spade a spade. I mean, it's a tool that lights up. It detects interference again.
Yeah.
Electromagnetic interference, electrical interference, static discharge, stuff like that. Just about 95% of the devices that you can buy now are just made to entertain the user. I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
That's why I have a hard time, because I go on the internet and I'm like shopping for all these extravagant things, but I don't trust a single damn one of them.
Sure.
Because it feels gimmicky. Like the K2 meter, the little thing that fits in the palm of your hands that has the 7 different lights on it. Does it just light up periodically to get your feathers ruffled? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Now, I will say, I think that the creators of such instruments for that use mean well. I think they believe in their product. Mm-hmm. I think that people's interpretation of these things as a means to scientifically prove or disprove a haunting is really flawed. I really think that people are invested in the look of it and feeling like a scientist. Yeah. Because in actuality, this is kind of a pseudoscience. And I know Shadow Things is about more than ghosts. It's about UAPs and cryptids and, parapsychology and even some psychology things. But speaking strictly about ghosts and hauntings, there's a lot of misconceptions about what people are actually doing out there. They're doing science in their minds, but they're using these instruments that are very scientific feeling and have that scientific description of what they're for, but it doesn't make you a scientist.
No.
Let me ask you a question. Who says that ghosts are made up of energy? People on TV.
Zach Bagans said it.
Zach Bagans says it. Not just Zach, but just about everybody on mainstream paranormal television will tell you that ghosts are energy. I'm sorry, but how do you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, I prescribe to it being a good theory, but I'm not going to develop or invest anymore tons of money, or I'm not going to develop a product that really detects the same kind of EMF. I don't care how it looks. It's still detecting the same thing based on celebrities saying that they're made of energy.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense to me. Is it a science? Kind of, but you don't call yourself, you're not doing it for the basis of science, really. You're out there trying to get it to beep and light up.
Yeah.
It's not proven. It's not going to tell you the name of some entity in the dark corner of your attic. It's going to light up when it gets a signal. What does that really show?
Yeah. That is...
I think this is where we're going to differ a lot on this show, is that I'm going to pull apart a lot of stuff. And
hey, I come into this not as educated, and I come into this questioning a lot of things, and this podcast to me is also a learning experience for me. There's so much that I want to learn, and I feel like I'm going to be able to do that and educate me, I guess.
Cool.
Throw some shit at me. Science.
And
I don't know.
On your end, I'm ready for you to give me stuff that shuts me up. I would like to believe a little bit more in things that I don't. And I want to back up and say that I believe in a lot. I have not only seen what I believe to be is ghost, and had different audible and olfactory and visual experiences through hauntings, but I've seen something in the sky that I shouldn't have seen, that started, and that was just 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
8 or 9 years ago.
Has it really been that long? Geez.
It's been a while, but I had my own UFO experience, and it happened. So, and I question my sanity sometimes about that particular sighting, but and there are things about ufology and people that subscribe to the whole MUFON is God type of thing that bugs me. I don't think there are professionals or people that are experts regarding UFOs. I think there are good scientists out there that's looking into it, and there's there's a lot of good momentum going right now trying to explain some of the things that people are seeing, and now the government's involved in releasing videos of things that they're saying it's not theirs, and that's very interesting to me.
Yeah. To
just think about, like, if it's nobody on Earth, then it had to have came from outside of our realm of our atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like possibly outside of the solar system. So that's a huge interest to me. And we're going to spend some time on other episodes, of course, talking about UFOs, and we'll have some interesting guests on, and we'll share experiences and stuff like that. Other things that we'll talk about: psychic abilities, telekinesis, some classic poltergeist cases, and what differentiates these things from the average haunting type symptoms or descriptions that people give you. When do you call a thing a poltergeist?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you call everything a poltergeist or a demon? So it's
what makes what
yeah, what makes what. So I think it's important to go through these topics and kind of give the facts, call out the BS, and give credit to things that actually could be legitimate. Like I said, I believe. I really do. I want to believe more, though.
It's all very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And then, of course, on some future episodes, we're going to do some experiments here in studio. You can see we have our own space here. We have a little room. We're going to do, stuff with psychic phenomenon. We're going to probably try an Estes experiment here. Some tarot readings, maybe try some electronic experiments, I also want to do some product reviews, get some things in here in studio and just kind of give opinions about whether or not it feels good, it feels right for technology and to ghost hunting or ufology, and just see if it fits. But it's all about giving our honest opinion and giving credit where it's due. But beyond that, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So, before we wrap, favorite paranormal TV show?
Oh, come on, man. I don't know. I've really been into Kindred Spirits.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about that.
But aside from me following Ghost Adventures for, I'm talking like a long time.
Yeah.
They'll always have a place in my heart. But what is her name? Katrina?
Wildman?
Yes. Yeah. I love her. Everything she does on television. I love her.
She started with Paranormal State.
Paranormal State. There was one she did with Nick Groff that was really good. Mm-hmm. And then she went with Jack Osborne.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was great.
I like Jack.
Portals to Hell.
Yeah, Portals to Hell.
Anything she does, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Some of my favorites are Nothing and Nothing. Now, here's the thing.
Check, please.
I have been down the road, per se, with some of these shows in a way that I'll get into later. Mm-hmm. But, some of the things on Ghost Adventures interest me. Like some of the evidence they get. For me, 95% of that is just entertainment. Zach and the gang are exciting, and they're there to bolster the mood.
Yeah.
I think some of it's cool, and it's a good show, but I don't believe half of the shit that goes on. So basically it's like, I'm not saying that any of it's fake, but a lot of it it's investigating with your personal experience. Like, it's always about being touched or feeling something or being possessed and rolling around, flailing your arms on the floor. It fucking happened on camera on that show.
Oh,
which is fine, but maybe there was possession, but I don't know. I'm just saying that I like to look for the deeper, more factual things.
Yeah,
and
you're not
wrong. I kind of skid past the entertainment. I like the comedy and some of the like Aaron on Ghost Adventures.
Oh, he's the best.
He's pretty cool. I think he's a good part of the show. So, if I had to pick a show, I don't watch a ton of them anymore, but I'd probably lean into Ghost Hunters a little bit because it's a pioneer.
So, with that being said, speaking on like Ghost Hunters, okay, so let me briefly, before we wrap, explain myself. When it comes to these TV shows, it's about the evidence for me. It's about, I don't want to say the science, but also I want to say about science. It's about factual things that I can't explain. The entertainment portion, sure, it's exciting and it kind of boosts the evidence to a degree. Like, I don't know, it makes some things feel more credible. But when it comes to Katrina and the things she does, it's like there is something credible in like the guys from Ghost Hunters.
Sure.
There is credibility in not a whole lot happening on these shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like shows like Ghost Hunters where it's just these guys in a location, they hear a few noises, have a few experiences without all the bullshit. There's credibility in that.
Yeah,
because that's what it's like. That's what it is.
And in fact, recently, Jason Hawes came on to social media. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of explained himself about how filming works and stuff like that. And, I think he did a good job of explaining the fact that, for Ghost Hunters, this television show, they do a lot more cases and a lot more filming than what actually gets aired. So it's up to production it's up to the network about what gets aired. Mm-hmm. Production, the studio on their end, they produce a lot more than what's showed. So that it's Jason's call and whoever's executive producer about what actually they investigate and how it goes down. All that is their decision, but it's the network that decides what's shown. So I think there's some legitimacy there on Jason's end by saying that a lot of it's boring. You know, a lot of things don't get aired because there's not anything of entertainment value going on.
Right.
And, you know, like, what are they on now? The Travel Channel?
Yeah.
So it used to be Sci-Fi for Ghost Hunters, and then they went to Ghost Nation, and there was this whole thing about, you know, Jason and Grant going different ways, but, you know, they're on Travel now, so it's up to Travel to really say what gets aired.
Come correct. They're on Discovery Plus.
Discovery Plus.
Exclusively, I believe.
Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So Discovery Plus, Ghost Hunters, it's a good show. I actually haven't seen the new season, but
it's good.
I do want to wrap by just kind of coming clean about part of my past that, you know, people are going to know about, and kind of a link to everything, you know, that I've been talking about. So I actually, and you know this, and you know our guests are going to know this, but I'm actually a former member of the Atlantic Paranormal Society. So I was a part of TAPS back in 2007. I ran the TAPS family for that year. It was after the show aired. You know, it was on a couple years or so. They've been on forever, but I was a part of the organization. I ran the groups that were involved in the TAPS family and tried to help structure that better. I preceded somebody else, and you know, I kind of inherited that from a little bit of a difficult situation. But I personally, in the past, have known Jason and Grant. You, of course, as my daughter, have met them. You know, so I do have a connection to the organization TAPS. There's no denying it. It's all public knowledge.
Yep.
But, you know, it was a short-lived thing. And then I got out of the paranormal shortly after that because of how the paranormal field is right now. A whole bunch of drama. So, and there's that whole topic. But, you know, I do have my link. I do want to say that I was never involved in production or the television show.
Right.
So, and then beyond that, you know, my involvement back in those days led me to knowing people outside of there that were paranormal celebrities. When I started spearheading some of the events and putting that together for people, I got to meet, you know, just about everybody out there at the time. And it was great. There are some great people out there. And, you know, we had some good times, you know, and, you know, there's just, it's a nice field. I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, there's some good people out there, and I met a lot of people, but it did go south because of some legal reasons.
Right.
And then, you know, people that know what I'm talking about will read into it and figure that part out. But I'm not going to go into a lot of the legalities of it.
Right.
Even though there are none.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 13 years ago. I do wish things would have ended differently. It ended my involvement kind of publicly as a whole because of what went down with an event.
Yeah.
And actually 2 events. But I hold a lot of responsibility as to what went on, but a lot of the things were absolutely out of my hands, and I fought and litigated to change things. I spent a lot of my personal money to make things right, and it just didn't get right, and I was absolutely shunned from the paranormal community. And there are people right now that still talk about it that are bitter.
Yeah.
And I wish I could hit the lottery and just make it right. Just do kind of like a market right side leveling of making people happy.
Yeah.
You know, because I do bear some responsibility. The buck stops at me.
Yeah.
You know, so I made a lot of people a lot of money because of these events. And you'll never hear that stuff. You'll never hear it. You'll just hear that, you know,
You'll hear the bullshit before you hear the...
Yeah, I'm a charlatan or a crook, or, you'll hear that type of stuff. And, the fact of the matter is that there were investigations done of those things that happened, and, law enforcement, like Department of Justice type things, organizations.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing became of it because there was no criminal wrongdoing. But the paranormal community absolutely tossed me out like a bag of dicks.
Yeah. Essentially.
They were done. I remember I was on one radio show talking about, I was trying to distance some paranormal celebrities from this event that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which, rightfully so, they had nothing to do with it. I was the structural architect of the event, but I was on a radio show trying to defend them and create that distance and explain myself. And one host said, "So they dropped you like a sack of hot potatoes," referring to being on the Atlantic Paranormal Society's team.
Yeah.
And I tried to downplay it and say, "Oh, no, not really." They did.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If I were in their place, I would have done it as well.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. So, those guys lost out on some money. And, if I could right-size things, I would. But I can't. That was 13 years ago. So I would like to say that it's time to move on. Mm-hmm. I will say I will never host an event because that was a learning experience.
Listen, you live and you learn. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, there are tons of great people putting on events, and I think that type of business still thrives, but it's going to thrive without me. I certainly won't do anything like that. This is what I want to do, is talk. Because I do have a lot of experience, not only with pop culture and celebrities of this field.
Yeah,
I have a lot of experience with other things. A lot of investigation time, it's just a lot to talk about. So, but I wanted to get that out there before my name got associated, in the wrong ways. So, that's who I am. That was my past. That's why I got out, so, but it was a good ride, and, I lost a lot of good friends and people. I actually had a very hard time with things. It got so bad when I moved back, to Ohio. This all really kind of happened in Florida.
Yeah.
But when I moved back to Ohio, I started having thoughts of suicide. I don't know if you know that or not, but I really was in a corner to where I didn't know what to do. Like, I felt like the whole world was against me.
Understandably.
And I had no intent. I did nothing wrong. Like, I didn't mean for anybody to be harmed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I tried my best to get everything fixed. And basically what happened is I kept putting on events that were successful. Mm-hmm. But the revenue for them events kept going backwards to pay off other fees and expenses for past events.
Right.
So the Big Kahuna was the big hotel that we hosted the last big convention down in Florida. Mm-hmm. The hotel shut down and all this stuff, but prior to that we had squeezed in a date and sold a lot of tickets to that, and it never happened. So I sued the hotel. I spent a lot of money doing it. It was not successful. I was going up against a big Japanese corporation, and I ended up shelling out a lot of money for that and trying to make it right. But everything I did after that point was to pay off people and things that came after that for events. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then, I was told by a lot of my friends at the time, Brent, you need to blip off the map. You need to shut it down and disappear. In the final event, I took it all offline. Tickets were sold to the event. That event did not happen as well. I had no means to compensate people that basically, already bought tickets, but a lot of people had reverse funds and got their money back through like PayPal. I can't remember the processor, but mm-hmm. A lot of people got their money back. But the event still went on because there's some good people out there that actually, I guess they felt responsible, and they hosted the event for the fans and the people that showed up. But But in the mind of the public, I was just a crook. Like, I was just somebody that. But I want everybody to know that I'm just not some guy off the street that created events. This was my passion since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've had groups. I've done investigations. I've been a part of the paranormal field for a long time. I just so happened to become involved with TAPS and got on board and hosted some events while I was doing that. And, it gave me the network ability to bring in good people and some exciting guests and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I guess Robert the Haunted Doll, bringing him from
What a guy he
Key
is,
West
by the way.
up to that event in Palm Harbor or wherever Bellevue.
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't such a good idea. So
No, I blame him.
So I guess I can honestly say I was the first person in the world to get Robert the Haunted Doll brought out of Key West to somewhere else. So yeah, he appeared at one of our events.
I'm convinced he broke my DSLR.
Yeah, I was actually sick as a dog that weekend.
Oh, that was awful.
And I remember somebody coming upstairs. We had the presidential suite, and we kind of had our team and our headquarters running that. And the first TAPSCon event of 2007,
Mm-hmm.
was a huge success. I mean, everybody had a great time. There were 2,000 people that showed up. Everybody from every paranormal show and not paranormal shows was there. And I had a bunch of people come in. It was kind of like a mega event.
What a time.
People had a great time.
Yeah.
And it was great. But, and it just went south from there. And I remember that during that event, I spent a lot of time up in the presidential suite, sick as a dog.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to die.
I don't think you ate that entire weekend.
I didn't. I think you and some other people had to force me to eat.
We force-fed you pizza, and I cried because I was worried about you.
Yeah. It was hotter than a dog's ass, too. I mean...
Yeah, it was really hot.
But I even remember, like Grant Wilson.
Yeah.
He was there as well, Jason, and everybody else. But
Yeah.
I remember Grant was like, "Where's Brent? This is his event."
Yeah.
And it didn't look good that I was up sick, but...
You live and you learn, man.
Yeah, so that was a great experience, but we had some great things go off after that. The Seven Sisters Inn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the USS Haunted Hornet out in Alameda, California. That was great. Had some great guests out there. Worked with a lot of really decent people in the celebrity field that appeared at these events, and I appreciate them and everything, but they absolutely turned their back on me, whether it was just to do it, to be politically correct, or for their own reasons. But I'm good with it. I'm at peace. I do expect people to dig up shit and try to trash this show. Well, I will tell you right now that I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I feel a certain way about the past, but this is my passion. I'm going to get on here and I'm going to talk about things that excite me and bug me. I'm going to call a spade, and this is going to happen.
And, unfortunately, like, you've addressed it after 13 years or however long it's been, and that won't be good enough for a lot of people. And
mind you, people that had nothing to do with that experience, people that probably weren't even born yet, is probably going to talk shit about it.
And you know what? And for all of those people, I am embarrassed for you. So,
well, I'm not embarrassed.
Not embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed for these other people that.
Oh.
Well, I'm embarrassed for the people that don't know enough to speak on it, but will.
Yeah. I will say, as far as, I don't want to get into names, but people will know who I'm talking about. I was treated very fairly by the top paranormal celebrities about how things went down. I was treated very fairly. I don't have anything bad to say about two people in particular. Like I said, I was treated fairly. I was distanced and shut out and shunned from the community, but I understand that.
Yeah.
I paid a price for it. I had a part of me ripped out and I don't want this whole last part of the episode to be all about me and that shitty time, but
hey, man.
I need to clear the air. This is the introductory pilot episode of Shadow Things, and I want to make sure people know who I am. And if there's, I hope I get the opportunity later on to bring on some of the people from my past.
Sure.
And maybe talk about, some of the good and the bad of the paranormal. If they want to ask me something about back in those days, I may or may not be open to talk about it, but I'm here. Shadow Things is here to stay, and I want to talk about real topics. I want people to enjoy the show and enjoy the evidence that we critique and feature. I want people to enjoy our guests. We're going to have some really brilliant people on the show that know their field and provide, classic podcast entertainment.
Right.
So that's it for a nutshell. I think that we're going to wrap up now, and I want to say that I appreciate every one of you that tuned in to the podcast on YouTube, whether you're catching it from Spotify or just simply listening in your car. Appreciate you stopping by, and we look forward to more. But with that, we are out, and we're going to go hang out in an attic or maybe a basement or cornfield and
something
do
cool.
our thing. So appreciate you all. We'll be back with the next episode where we're going to pick out 3 classic paranormal, cryptid, and ufology cases and discuss them for an hour and a half. We're going to have our first guest on next, 2 weeks from now, Kurt Ehos, the second or tied for second or first most brilliant person I've ever known, part of my past, but he's going to be our guest on next episode, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody there. Appreciate you.